Controversy. Video games since time memoriam have been mired in it. From 90s soccer moms raging against Mortal Kombat and the moral panic that has perpetually surrounded Grand Theft Auto, almost every genre-pushing video game has seemingly been pinned as some kind of moral boogeyman aimed at eroding the moral fibers of society as we know it. But, as we know, if you can manage to drown out the noise and use your brain, the boogeyman isn't real, there's no moral monster hiding under society's bed, and rage baiters go on to practice selective outrage on something else. Stellar Blade at this point has been more hyped for its controversial design decisions than its merits as a video game. Which is a shame, because digital waifu booty censorship aside, it's a pretty phenomenal video game. I'm Dirty C, and if you haven't yet, please consider subscribing, commenting, and liking down below, as this will only bring you perpetual pleasure and help me build my pathetic dreams. The controversy surrounding Stellar Blade is outright stupid, but its quality as a video game is nearly top-notch. Let's talk about it. Humanity has been completely eradicated from planet Earth, leaving the disgustingly savage Naytibas behind to inhabit the planet. In a last-ditch attempt to take Earth back for humanity, the colony deploys the 7th Airborne Squad, colloquially known as the Angels, to bring the fight back to Earth and wipe out the Naytibas. Our main protagonist, Eve, lands amidst a raging battle and witnesses the traumatic maiming and death of her comrade, Taki. The counteroffensive is a complete failure, rendering Eve the sole survivor. After being rescued by a scavenger named Adam and rescuing a surviving human named Lily, our newly formed band of ragtag protagonists travel to the dying city of Zion, where the last remnants of humanity remain. Eve is tasked with hunting down the remaining Alpha Naytibas in order to find and eliminate the Elder Naytiba, restoring power to Zion in the process and hopefully giving humanity a second chance at existence. Yes, I know what you're thinking. The main meat of the story is ripped from Nier Automata. But Stellar Blade's story and storytelling techniques lack the subtle nuances and creative gusto that made Nier's story as impactful as it was. There's nothing in Stellar Blade that's breaking the mold in terms of how it tells its story, thus just offering a budget Nier Automata plot experience. As the story progresses, our characters don't really have any kind of story arc. Eve never grows and matures. Adam is just a flat milquetoast sidekick that never has anything interesting to say, and Lily is fine. This is probably the most frustrating part of Stellar Blade. All of the characters are extremely forgettable in their dialogue and interactions, there's no real growth between the character relationships, and you never feel like the team is going through a formative and traumatic experience together. Honestly, if it weren't for their physical designs, the characters in Stellar Blade would be entirely forgettable. As the story progresses, there are some twists and turns that everyone and their grandmother can see coming from a mile away, and the story never really puts the work in to make these twists meaningful. They just kind of happen. For a story that tries to tangle with such existential concepts, the stakes in Stellar Blade never truly feel high. The drama never really feels impactful, and the half-wittingly lobbed emotional moments are never really earned. Which is a shame, because behind this phoned-in, lifeless story is actually a very entertaining game. Alright, now we get to the good stuff. Looking at the gameplay of Stellar Blade, it's almost like they've taken the best parts of popular franchises and melded them together in the most accessible way possible. Though the combat is clearly the focus of the gameplay experience, and no lie, the combat mechanics in Stellar Blade are probably the best I've experienced so far in 2024, the combat is a perfect mix of action RPG style combat with a healthy dash of Sekiro and Souls. The ability to perfect parry is essential to success, and the game gives you numerous tools to make perfect parrying doable for just about every player's skill level. Perfect parrying knocks off balance nodes, which when fully depleted, open your opponent up to a powerful retribution attack. As you progress, you unlock burst and beta skills, as well as a special combat stance, all of which are incredibly powerful once you get them fully leveled up. Additionally, the game also gives you a ranged option in the form of a gun drone, which can be loaded with different kinds of ammo. In fact, there are portions of the game where this is your only form of offense, giving parts of Stellar Blade almost a Resident Evil remake kind of feel at times. If you took combat elements from Dark Souls, Sekiro, Final Fantasy XVI, and add in a little dash of Devil May Cry, chances are that's the exact recipe for Stellar Blade's combat. But outside of combat, there are light platforming sections that ranged from okay to just downright wonky, and frustrating, but thankfully, they're not really that abundant. The exploration, as well, is fairly basic, but does just enough to feel like you're making organic discoveries while not being tedious. There are collectibles and outfits and memory sticks to find throughout the world, and again, I didn't feel like they were overbloated. All the collectibles were just the right amount to give a satisfying completion experience while avoiding burnout. But of course, no Souls-inspired action RPG is complete without insanely epic boss fights. And oh my sweet gentle baby Jeebus, does Stellar Blade deliver on the boss fights. Though, soft flex, I will say, until you reach the late game, the bosses in Stellar Blade are pretty big pushovers. They clearly lean more into the cinematic spectacle, which isn't a bad thing. I got just as much satisfaction taking down these big baddies in style and not having to rage quit every 10 attempts. Like any truly great game, the gameplay is what matters in Stellar Blade, and what Shift Up has created here is so incredibly satisfying while being accessible and efficient. For the most part, Stellar Blade follows a fairly linear structure with its mission design. The game is broken up into 6 straightforward, somewhat branching linear path levels with a clear start and clear finish, and then adds 2 open areas. I really like this recent trend of having open zones. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth also featured this kind of design, and it really helps break up the action and give a clear feeling of progression throughout the experience. Especially nowadays, where open world bloat is very much a real thing, Stellar Blade keeps this manageable and breaks its level design up enough to provide brief respites that almost act as chapter breaks throughout its runtime. Artistically, this is another huge win for Stellar Blade. All of the character designs are wildly imaginative and rendered in such beautiful fashion that it really draws the player into its immersive world. Similarly, the enemy designs are also mind-bendingly gross. In fact, joking with some friends in a local gaming group, many of us had trouble timing enemy attacks because we weren't sure what body part of the enemy was attacking us, much less what we were really looking at. A little practice though, and it was fine. However, I did feel the environment designs in a few places were a little flat. How many open deserts do we really need? Oh, a post-apocalyptic dystopian city. Great. But there are moments where taking a minute to stop and take in the scenery was an absolute treat. Stellar Blade was awesome, pure and simple, drowning out all of the erroneous vitriol and outrage surrounding the game can be annoying, but rest assured, Stellar Blade is totally worth it. With gripping edge-of-your-seat combat and insanely epic cinematic moments, Stellar Blade is just pure fun, and it's so enjoyable that ignoring the story altogether won't ruin your experience one bit. In a world where every piece of media needs to mean something or have some kind of deeper message, it's nice just to have a purely fun video game to rage out on. If you made it this far into the video, you have my unimaginable appreciation. If you haven't yet, please consider subscribing, liking, and leaving a comment down below, and I'll see each and every one of you in the next video.